So last night the crews arrived. We flew in from all over the country. This year we're doing the drive home too. It's the Heritage Run. So basically we're kind of hitting some stops along the way that are celebrating the 100th anniversary of this 1917 Crane Simplex that we're taking along with us. Now that car was produced in New York City. It was owned by J.D. Rockefeller Sr. It was a gift from his son for his birthday.
We're out across America promoting the love affair with the car and America's automotive heritage and driving them and giving enthusiasts the opportunity to get their cars out and come with us. And I love that. I just think that's the way it ought to be.
You know, there's an importance to exercise your freedom of mobility. You know, all we hear about from Detroit is autonomous vehicles and the oncoming homogenization of transportation. And what we're doing is an exercise in something that's almost a dying chapter in the American story, which is just to get out and drive for the sake of driving, enjoying your car, enjoying the artistic expression that these cars represent, and the American ingenuity that, that manufactured them.
What kind of a car is this?
A Crane Simplex, 1917, once owned by J.D. Rockefeller. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is where I was born and bred, New England, and love the coast. Call it the Heritage Run, and so we go back to the most historic places that we can find in Boston and New York and Philadelphia and Washington D.C. and let's hit heritage hard.
What we found last year was we really enjoyed meeting enthusiasts all over the country, and this year we hope to do even more of that. Some of the initial feedback that we're getting indicates that, you know, there's a lot of guys that have caught on to the idea that, hey, you can drive your car all year round, and moreover, you should drive your car all year round. You should enjoy it to its fullest.
You know, it's one thing to see a car in a museum or in a magazine, but there's something about the car actually moving and driving, and the sound of it, the smell of it, the whole thing, I think is really, it's exciting, but it brings a closer connection to the cars when you can actually see them, you know, moving. It's exciting to drive an old car. I mean, here I'm driving a car that's over 50 years old, started right up, and it's just everybody's looking at you, and it's not that fast, and it's probably not that safe if you want to know the truth. It doesn't have airbags, and it doesn't have a lot of the new technology, but it is a cool car to be driving around in.
What do you think about this trip for us? Do you think we're going to be run into some challenges?
I think you're definitely going to run into some challenges. I heard the brakes on that Chrysler, but you know, old cars are like that, and then I think that's part of the fun is you never know what's going to happen. It could break down, it might make it, it might not make it. You know, you hope for the best, naturally.
Well, by coincidence, this gentleman saw the cars coming into town, stopped at the restaurant where we were at, and was telling us about some auctions that he's been involved with, collector car auctions he's been involved with. And when this came up, he happened to be there, and I went over and asked him if he knew somebody that might have a lift where he could raise it up, and he said he had one at his house. So here we are.
You know, I'll tell you, my background, I used to fly World War II airplanes at air shows, and it was quite a tight community. And I think it's the same thing. I think you know, if I've had engine problems and landed in the most obscure places, and guys that, you know, they'd open their homes, their tools, and help you out in any way they could. And I think it's the same with car guys. I mean, it's just a great camaraderie.
Two things that are critical it doesn't matter if a car runs or not, but if it doesn't stop and if it doesn't, or it doesn't steer, you got problems.
So this is the commemorative bottle that we're giving out to our sponsors and all on the drive home.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
Look at that.
there
Wonderful.
you go.
Wonderful.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you
our
very
friend.
much. Thank you. My pleasure.
We appreciate
really.
it. Come
My
see
pleasure.
us.
I would like to do that.
Yeah, hope
I'd like
so.
to do that someday.
Something major failure in the transmission on the Mustang.
Yeah, so do you have a parking garage where you can go?
In
We got
downtown
permission from the
Manhattan.
cops to park here.
It's pouring fluid all over the ground. It wasn't going anywhere. Couldn't even, we put some in, it didn't hold it. We're gonna flatbed it, get it somewhere to a garage. Hopefully they can pull a tranny and do a seal. Yeah, worst case scenario. Well, those who have been following our journey so far have noticed that we've had a number of mechanical maladies. So we thought we'd bring the cars to Georgetown, to the scene of The Exorcist, and cast out the demons.
The decision is whether the cars will get the demons exorcised or whether they're going to throw me down the stairway, and that's where we're at right now, is trying to make that decision. With old cars, you can expect to have some problems. You know, we try to be as thorough as we can with them, but it's still an old car and anything can happen. The things that we know are always a possibility, but we really don't think too much about is the flat tires, and that's something that, you know, is just out of the blue, you know, there's no way you can plan it for it, you just deal with it. Same way with cars, you know, you try to do everything you can, but when something happens, you just have to deal with it.
I'm Mike Carney, and I'm the owner here of Katie's Coffee House in the Old Brogue in Great Falls, Virginia. We have a lot of car enthusiasts. We run in the spring, summer, and fall when it's a little warmer, up to 450 cars every Saturday. It's a nice thing to be able to get your car out of the garage or get out, especially in this area where everyone's so stressed and it's go, 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 go. And a lot of guys and gals have their favorite car or their family heirloom in their garage, and they never get a chance to get it out. And here at Katie's, they can show up every Saturday morning and somebody really appreciates what you have. You know, I'm sorry the Mustang couldn't make it today, but you know, these are all, you know, what everyone, at least of my generation, was thinking about. This was the family mobile. The Mustang was the one that you aspired to have as your first hot rod. You know, so this really shows a lot about what the car lover loves and what I can appreciate. And especially, you know, when the people from the museum are taking the time to let America see it. People that can't get to the museum, but they can actually be here to appreciate it and look and touch the car and really be part of it.
So Charlie makes the offer on Hemmings. He says, if you guys need any parts, and we just stopped for gas, and I said, do you have a flasher? As a matter of fact, I do.
Yeah, I had one in the trunk as a spare. So
Crawls in, puts it in.
Yep.
I got signals, baby.
Got signals.
I'm happy, man.
Tell you, Charlie, he's as handy as a pocket on a shirt.
We've gone to like 25 states. with these cars, which is crazy when you think of it. Last year, I think it was 13 states, and this year is 8, so 22 states. That's pretty amazing. And in every state, bar none, people come out of the woodwork, they're taking pictures, they're cheering you on. You'll be going down the freeway, getting the thumbs up, you know, and people just love it.
Drive your cars. I mean, they're not made to park and, you know, and sit. Get them out and drive them.
I've had the car since 1976. I had 340,000 miles on the frame. The car was overhauled in 2010 and 11. Since then, I put 43,000 miles on it, on Hot Rod Power Tour, Northeast Rod Run, Spring Blossom Tours, and the Appalachian Beach Run.
This gives you a little bit of a view of what the property actually looks like. We're in this building. So you'll see a lot of restored cars and a lot of original cars. I was born and raised in Allentown, and I got a call from a guy that wanted to have a car restored, and he was an old restorer, friend of mine, and he had gotten a call from Mr. Bulgari from Europe, and he didn't have a clue who to take it to, so he said, take it to this guy in Allentown with a baseball hat. Nobody knew my name, and then the next thing you know, they sent it to me, and I did the car, and when I finished the car 3 months later, he called me up and wanted me to take care of his cars worldwide, and it was basically because he knew the passion that I had for doing the preservation, and the authenticity of it was off the charts, and I wanted to give, you know, every customer I did, you know, exactly what they felt they needed and what they deserved. So that's how I hooked up with him. You know that car? Yeah. That red one? Sort of think that it was overheated in the finer New York traffic, because we can't find any sign of a line broken or any kind of main problem. We think that maybe it, if anywhere, it's leaking out of the front main seal in the front pump of the transmission. So I think we're going to be okay. So hopefully tomorrow we can get it off the jack stands and get it back on the road with the rest of the group and rejoin its tour. So I'm pretty confident about it. And worst case, we just send 2 cases of transmission fluid and on the way it goes.
See these cars right here? We're doing this thing called the drive home, and we're driving these classic cars across the country, and Shell's one of our sponsors, so they gave us all these gas cards we're allowed to give out to people. So I want to give you some free gas today. Yeah, Happy New Year.
My birthday was yesterday.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
God bless you.
New at noon, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway's museum got a special visit this morning. 3 stunning vintage cars. The Drive Home 2, the Heritage Run exhibit, is celebrating the American heritage in the auto industry. There's this 57 Chevy Nomad, a 61 Chrysler, and a 66 Ford Mustang. All who attended this morning's event got to tour the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum as well.
It's all about just creating awareness for the importance that the American automobile has played in the country's past and what it will play in the future as well.
The tour is now headed up to Michigan. Its final destination is the North American International Auto Show in Detroit.
So we got big problems. I was just driving this Chrysler down the road, and my axle just broke on me. Somewhere in Indiana. And we got our roadside crew here. There's Rock. Rock, what'd that look like?
Watch out, you're in an off-road. We were spraying sparks for 30 yards. I was worried about you. I was hoping you could keep her on the road and wouldn't lose it.
Parts get there, the car gets there, and they are able to get it in the shop. They're going to try to do it before the weekend, but otherwise they'll definitely have it so it's a roller, you know, to get onto the transport truck when it's supposed to come back to Seattle.
celebration of America's automotive history is making its way to Detroit with a stop here in Grand Rapids. Tour is headed for Traverse City and Lansing before ending in Detroit on Friday.
We are at a Cars and Coffee at MFD Classic Cars in Traverse City. This is the creation of Don and Mike Fisher. It's a fabulous place with tons of amazing and unusual cars.
We've been involved with supporting the museum, and we support a lot of institutions like America's Car Museum, but we have a special partnership with America's Car Museum. The core activities of what America's Car Museum is about is building community around cars. Something that I really think, though, is missing in our culture in America, North America, and really in the West is that I believe that the automobile is the most significant industrial artifact of the last 130 or so years. So the ride home is, I would submit it. It's a journey into ourselves as human beings, not just a journey in cars from place to place, but it's also, we hope, part of a wake-up call, part of a message from human beings that these cars are important to us and we'd like to celebrate them.
The drive home. We're leaving Traverse City and next stop Okemos, Michigan at the Bell Tire.
So the statement for these cars is to don't forget the past. Obviously we're looking at autonomous vehicles and technology of the future, but we do feel like people are always going to want to have that connection to the road and be in charge of their vehicles. And Michelin wants to be a part of that.
What's great about the old cars is you're much more connected to the visceral experience of the drive. We're all very deferential to the history of Detroit. The automobile is very formative in each of our minds, and so even though we're not in the auto business, we're in the Detroit business, and you can't think about the future of Detroit without looking backwards and embracing our past and using it as part of our shared future.
They traveled nearly 3,000 miles across the USA to arrive in Detroit in time for this year's auto show.
Chopper 7 was over the scene of the Drive Home Heritage Tour.
Friday's celebration started at Lincoln of Troy dealership, made its way down Woodward, and ended at Cadillac Square in downtown Detroit. The Lady Red Trio will be in the Motor City as part of the auto show celebration. A 1957 Chevy Nomad, a 1961 300G, and a 1966 Ford Mustang. 3 red vintage cars making its way back home to the Motor City. Drive Home celebration is kicking off the North American International Auto Show 1 week in advance.
How many cars do you know where you can actually swivel to get out?
It's like Caesar coming home from, campaigns in Rome or something. It's great.
Think about this too. There's great history that's often forgotten. And then you take this where you take your grandparents. Remember the days you're with your grandparents in the car and you had family time. It was like dinner. You're in the car with a family and you're at the engagement. And those are the times you miss the most and mean the most to you.
The biggest highlight is that in town after town across America, people would come out and then come up to you and say, thank you for bringing these cars out. Thank you for bringing cars to life. Thank you for celebrating, because they don't believe that the manufacturers celebrate their heritage enough. And they demonstrated their love for it, and I think it was a very, very cool thing. That was the most important thing.